We were searching for Bigfoot near the Mount St. Helens area because of the overwhelming amount of Sasquatch sightings reported in and around the area. On this particular expedition, the RMSO team investigated the thick, lush wilderness near the remote little town of Yacolt. Yacolt is the Klickitat Indian word meaning haunted place or place of spirits. It also means the Valley of the Lost Children. Not entirely sure if the Klickitat Indians of Washington gave Yacolt its name because of the Bigfoot phenomenon. Today, Yacolt is rich with modern-day history of Bigfoot reports. Our team loves to search for the creature in places with a history of multiple sighting reports. Here is one of many exciting Sasquatch encounters in and around Yacolt and the Mount St. Helens, Washington area that inspire our team to search for this elusive giant. This report was immediately picked up by the media, and at the time there was a small media frenzy searching for the creature around this area. This happened just south of the small community of Yacolt, Washington, 1989 in June. Mrs. Brenda G. washing the dinner dishes, looking out over her backyard past the horse corral that had a pony off in the distance. She noticed suddenly the horse becomes unruly and seems close to panic, while an indistinct figure passes through the trees behind the corral. She calls to Nick. "Nick! There are some kids up there trying to tease the horses." And then she steps out of the kitchen back door with a BB gun in her hands for good measure. Nick races out past her and some distance down the overgrown meadow along the stand of trees, where he becomes abruptly face to face with a Sasquatch standing on the indistinct footpath. Nick comes to such a screeching halt that he slides on the moist vegetation and sits down on the ground. For reassurance, he throws a backward look to his mother, who, however, has returned to the house. When he looks back at the Sasquatch, it is already walking with long strides across the brush and wildflower-covered meadow, lifting up its feet more than people do. As Nick scrambles to get up, a branch snaps and the Sasquatch turns to look at him with big eyes. Nick runs back into the house, tearing the screen door off its hinges in the process, to tell his mother about the creature and to change into his boots from his slippery loafers. He then charges back out, taking a large army bayonet from over the fireplace for protection, with Brenda close behind. Their two dogs have retreated under the house. As he runs down through the same meadow, the Sasquatch is still walking about there, retreats downhill, crosses a small creek, and stops on the far bank of the creek under a fir tree to face his pursuers. His entire body bathed in sunlight and visible from head to toe. Nick stops about 30 feet away. His mother stands about 15 feet behind him. This silent tableau holds its place for what seems an extraordinarily long time. Perhaps 5 minutes, although Nick's and Brenda's estimates, colored by the adrenaline of the encounter, range as high as 20 minutes. Whatever length of time passes, it gives Nick and Brenda the opportunity of a detailed inspection of the Sasquatch. They describe it as being 6 feet 6 inches tall, as measured against a branchlet that barely touched the crown of its head. It was covered with black-gray fur and golden-brown patches on its shoulders and chest. The hair was 4 to 5 inches long and dirty with burrs in it. The head is notably pronounced, with a pronounced brown ridge and deep-set eyes. The eyes seem less open than human eyes. Facing into the sun, it has a wide and stumpy nose, the hairness under the nose getting thicker, hiding the jawline. It has impressively wide shoulders. Man, they are wide. Nick holds his hands far apart in retelling. Heavy arms, wide hands, with thick fingers and dark brown and rough palms. Its nails have a deep yellow nicotine-stained color. Its torso narrows somewhat to the waist. No genitals are visible in the fur, and it has sort of a small butt for a man, according to Brenda's astute assessment. Both observers perceive an animal as a male. Neither of them detects any smell. In due time, Brenda gets the willies. and anxiously screams to Nick to break it off. Thereupon, the Sasquatch screams, takes a step across the creek towards them, while holding its arms out to the side by about 45 degrees, as if to herd them on their way. They run halfway up the hill to the house, when Nick feels compelled to give one more look. He is rewarded by a repeat of the faintly aggressive display, throwing its arms out at 45 degrees. They continue to the house, Brenda scooping up John from the lawn, who says, "Mommy, there is a big monkey in our backyard." Brenda climbs up on the low garage roof and watches the Sasquatch walk away. The dogs stay under the house for a safe 2 hours and will not let themselves be coaxed out, even by waving meat at them. The horse has a substantial abrasions on its fetlocks where it had gotten snagged on a rope in its panic. Brenda phones 911, but hangs up before the call is answered. After some time, she phones back and reports the encounter. This encounter is duly noted in the police blotter, but wasn't acted upon. Only an alert reporter from the Vancouver Columbian catches the brief note and looks up the family. This reporter and several Sasquatch investigators canvass the surroundings, and neighbors come up with a few additional items. 2 sets of footprints were found. One set was 12 inches long, and the other set 6 inches long. Brenda puts out a roasted chicken high in a tree fork because she wants to see this baby Bigfoot. An adjacent unused meadow has a large depression of grass in it. A patch of thimbleberries is found on the steep hillside to have been stripped of its fruit and leaves, leaving bare canes behind. The adjacent farmer's cows, which had just been turned loose for the summer into higher lush meadow, come rushing back to the barn that night, something the farmer had never observed before. After about a week, 5-year-old little John comments casually, "The little monkey isn't coming to play anymore." Mrs. Brenda G., a young mother, German, recently moved to Washington from the U.S. South. Doing dishes, her 15-and-a-half-year-old son Nick, a short but muscular macho kid, doing homework, her 5-year-old son John playing outside on the lawn, the 2 dogs, 1 pony. The father is at work away from home at the time of the event. After the media and Sasquatch researchers descended upon the area because of this event, other stories in the area were discovered. A Sasquatch was seen above a nearby lumber mill about 4 years earlier. Nick had been sleeping on the screened porch of the house and had heard noises, like rustling brush and slapping of footsteps on the street during the night. Similar sounds were heard by the overnight Sasquatch investigators after the sighting. Earlier in the same year, while a Little League baseball game was in progress at the Yacolt's ballpark, a Sasquatch stepped out of the forest in full view of the spectators in the bleachers and briefly viewed the game in progress before retreating into the forest. A neighbor and his daughter saw the Sasquatch on an evening after the G's sighting, but refused to talk about it to investigators. A couple of investigators from Seattle arrived and proceeded to establish a camp in the early evening on the steep hillside where the thimbleberry patch had been found. After several hours, about 11 p.m., they came racing down the hillside, dragging their unfolded tent and sleeping bags behind in disarray, got into their Volkswagen van, and left without further comment, never to be heard from again. Nick and Brenda G's sighting happened around 8:30 p.m. in June. It was a clear sky, sunshine, and pleasant temperature. They had a 2-story home on a country road, surrounded by minimal lawns, bordered by steeply rising forest across the road. Behind the house there was abandoned fields overgrown with brush and wildflowers, mixed with groves of evergreens. Neighboring houses are separated by several hundred feet. One of the many investigators was BFRO investigator Dr. Wolf H. Fehrenbach. Here is his follow-up investigation report. The circumstances suggest that a young Sasquatch was wandering through the countryside in the company of an older sibling, a young male, providing the impetus for the unusual confrontational protection display. The narrow waist suggests a young male. Yellow color of nails is probably a function of thick keratin. Dirtiness seems to be the rule of spring sightings. Thimbleberry vines were evidently cleaned by sliding the hand along the cane from the ground up. Despite the apparent lack of smell, the dogs, horses, and cows reacted without very close encounters. An effort to attract the Sasquatch by baiting, hibachi glowing for hours in the meadow with hot dogs on it, strategically scattered donuts, etc., and viewing the surrounding during an ensuing night with night vision binoculars proved fruitless. The final comment about John playing with the little monkey has to be weighed against the exclusive and pervasive Sasquatch talk about the event by the adults, family, and visitors alike, and conversely, the gilllessness of small children and his identification of the subadult Sasquatch as a big monkey. This is Kelly Shaw reporting with RMSO. I will include the BFRO investigator report by Dr. Wolf H. Fehrenbach in the description of this video. I'll provide a link so you guys can go read his reports. And we're going to keep looking around this area and in the shadow of Mount St. Helens searching for Bigfoot because of these Bigfoot sighting reports in the area. This is an amazing report, an amazing group of reports around the Yacolt area. I hope you guys enjoyed. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching. Please subscribe to us on YouTube so you can get the latest Bigfoot sighting reports in the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Northwest. And don't forget to click on the bell next to the subscription button so that you'll get all of our notifications that we put out weekly of visiting Bigfoot sighting areas and the reports that come out of those areas. Thank you for watching. I think St. Helens is that way. Just by